Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're coming at you with This Week in Cannabis News from September 3rd to the 9th. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos, and then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the industry, identify top companies that you keep seeing pop up, and take advantage whenever you feel ready. And so I'm making this video on Friday just because I have a busy weekend with work and Thanksgiving in Canada, and so I don't know if I'll have the time to try and put this together. So just wanted to obviously update you on some big breaking news that we got yesterday. So without further ado, we're going to dive in. So thanks, Tom Engel, for sharing. Breaking news yesterday, President Joe Biden is pardoning people convicted of cannabis possession offenses and initiating a process to federally reschedule cannabis just weeks before the election. So something that we weren't expecting. Boom, we got something that sounds very good, at least to the public eye. Now, there's a little bit more to it, unfortunately, as we dig through, but still, this is massive that we have the president of the White House, the executive branch, essentially highlighting that he has intentions to reform cannabis. And, that is obviously what we've been waiting for, and this could be the catalyst that could set off the next bull run. And so with that, Tom Engel updated. Here's Biden's official proclamation granting a full, complete, and unconditional pardon to people who committed the offense of simple possession of cannabis in violation of the Controlled Substances Act. So I'm going to put these links all below so you can read the stories if you wanted to learn more about them. And then so lastly, just to add from Tom Engel, the Justice Department says it will expeditiously administer President Joe Biden's proclamation to pardon people for cannabis possession, and the HHS Secretary is looking forward to working on the separate cannabis scheduling review he's directed. So again, this all sounds great that he's going to pardon those with federal simple possession charges, and that he will initiate the descheduling process or rescheduling process. And so, but do got to give a big shout out to Justin Machacek down here for this point, as highlighting this is political theaters. If we dig a little bit through, simple cannabis possession is a federal misdemeanor, and most nonviolent federal cannabis cases are felonies. Interesting, good point. He could have included possession with intent and offered paths to expungement, but at least it will be a big step in the right direction to helping people get pardoned for past offenses. And so regardless though, this is great news. And again, this is still the president of the White House initiating this intent to keep some of his campaign promises. And so I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Obviously, we did not see the market behave on open as it did near the last 30 minutes of close yesterday, but there's still a lot of time in the day, and no doubt we might see it run up until the end of this week. And so regardless though, just wanted to share a few good points that Weed Street 420 found. So thank you, Weed Street 420, for digging through these. And he highlights, can you guess the number of prisoners that will be released from prison following Joe Biden's announcement? Spoiler, 0, no one. And so digging through, he does highlight relieve the collateral consequences. According to the White House, no one is currently in federal prison solely for simple possession of the drug. So again, a lot of political theater, but still essentially for the share prices, obviously we want cannabis descheduled, and we want the American people and people around the world to get access to this plant back, but at least this is the first incremental step to hopefully getting there. So the fight doesn't end, we continue, but just wanted to highlight this because the Dems are always deceiving in their nice wordplay, but the actions speak a lot louder than words. And so with that, wanted to share another one from Weed Street 420. So thank you for doing all this digging. 2 years, and this is just the most optimistic scenario, of course, but going through this, the process can typically take several years, Friedman said, but depending on how much pressure Biden applies to the agencies to expedite the review, and do you think that's going to be a lot from Biden? Hopefully, but the administration could complete the review within 2 years. That's a long time, but even reclassifying cannabis as a Schedule II substance, meaning it could have some medical benefits, but is still harmful, would not do much to change the on-the-ground reality, Friedman said. And so again, sounds great, might not be as good, but at least this is the news that we've been hoping for, and a lot of people are seeing, or at least the sentiment towards the cannabis industry seems to be changing, which we essentially all want, and is, again, the next incremental step in the right direction. So last one from Weed Street 420, highlighting some more points. Congressional researchers report Biden can't deschedule without action from Congress. The Attorney General can't deschedule without changing international treaties, and Congress unquestionably holds the power to amend the CSA to reschedule or deschedule a controlled substance. So still, take this as big news, but let's just not try to get ahead of ourselves and try and follow the facts. So thank you, Weed Street 420, for doing this digging and making it easy to share with you guys. And so just going to pause it here so you can read through if you'd like, especially some of these two highlighted parts. You pause to read. and then scroll down if you wanted to read the rest. And so this is as of yesterday, late at night, 9:12 p.m., October 6th. So again, yeah, thank you Weed Street 420 for doing this digging. Got to show you the unfortunate possible bad with the good, but again, still the catalyst that we might have been looking for to change the sentiment. So with this, the Dales report highlights how much impact did Joe Biden's pardon on federal cannabis possession, or the announcement and rescheduling review, have today. MSOS more than doubled its all-time high of shares traded, and it all started after 3 p.m. So again, ultimately good for the cannabis MSOs, and at least for our investments and our bags and the share prices. Most tier 1 component stocks gained between 18 to 46% within the hour, and according to Dale's report, safe seems assured now. And obviously, we would hope for that, but just sharing any good snippets or interesting snippets I can find to help us understand what is going on during these pivotal times. And so with that, just wanted to share this comment from Professor Billionaire on a tweet from the Dales report last night, or not last night, this morning, but Dales report writing last night, we asked if there was any good reason MSOS component stocks couldn't uplist to major U.S. exchanges upon a Schedule 2 classification. And again, we want descheduled, but chances of the White House actually descheduling and giving power back to the people, very unlikely. This morning, we have our first takes on the matter from the IB analyst. This is Jeffries' take on this. So again, take this with a grain of salt, but at least is optimistic to summarize at the bottom that Bennett said rescheduling cannabis would, we believe, according to Jeffries, be enough to allow for uplisting and in turn significant inflows of new institutional capital. And so just wanted to share this as of 10:25 a.m. this morning. And so Professor Billionaire comments, when these get uplisted, even on the Canadian TSX, the impact of institutional money will be significant, and that's what we're all essentially holding out for. I'm Canadian, or I'm in Canada. A massive pension fund invested in Canopy Growth many years ago. They want in, and U.S. pension funds, etc., will also want in as well. And so again, lots of moving parts, but essentially it is very good news for the sentiment of the cannabis industry, as we are getting headlines of some sort of potential positive reform finally from the executive branch. And so with that, New Cannabis Ventures shared this timely one yesterday as of October 6th. Cannabis sales declined sequentially in most markets in August, according to BDSA. And so cannabis sales decreased 0.8% in August compared to July, according to cannabis data analytics firm BDSA. But keep in mind, this is what we typically expect, because 3 times in a year we see sales jump, usually in March, then in July, and then in December. And so after July, which is usually a peak month, in summer when people are feeling good and they're spending, going to festivals, getting out and about, we do see a big spike, and so August typically does fall down from that. And so in this review, we will look at markets one by one, beginning with the eastern markets and then concluding with the western markets. In total, sales across 11 markets did reach $1.67 billion during the month. And so not going to go through them all, but I'm just going to let you pause to read, or you can grab the link below if you wanted to. Eastern markets will start. BDSA provides coverage for Florida, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. In August, year-over-year growth ranged from negative 12.7 in Maryland, of course, medical-only market, but they are voting to legalize on the ballot in November, and that will be an overwhelming yes, to 29.5% in Florida. Note that Florida, Maryland, and Pennsylvania are still medical-only markets. And so Florida, this is the change that we see here. And just to highlight, this is August down here. And so you can pause to read or take a look for the breakdown. Well, we've got Illinois, most recently published data from August. And so we can see here, this is August 2022. And so you can pause to read for more on Illinois. Well, we've got Maryland as well. Mouse here is over on the August side. And so you can pause to read for a bit more on Maryland. While we scroll down here, we've got Massachusetts, and essentially just wanted to highlight again, we see this big spike. This is December 2021, and then we see the next essential large spike in March, but then of course April. So while I did say March, it's typically March or April, because of course April has the Cannabis National Holiday of 420, but we see another big spike in April before the spike in July, typical of the trend that we're seeing in other markets. And so in Massachusetts fell down a little bit, but that is that market if you want to pause to read more here. Well, we've got Michigan as well, and so you can pause to read more about Michigan. And then we've got Pennsylvania, last but not least, medical-only market for the eastern markets, since you can pause to read for more info. And so with that, western markets, BDSA provides coverage for Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, and Oregon. In August, year-over-year growth ranged from negative 27.2 in Nevada, again, a market that is struggling, to negative 3.8% in California compared to a year ago. But keep in mind, these are the most mature markets in the country. So a lot of the growth we are expecting are from the new markets. And keep in mind, New Jersey did recently launch, as did Vermont. But these are not shared through BDSA yet, so that New Cannabis Ventures can't report on it. And so Arizona, you can pause to read, since legalizing for adult use in 2021. So that's Arizona. We've got California, you can pause to read, and at least we did see August sales actually jump up from July, which was kind of surprising, at least for myself, but pause to read for California. Colorado fell down a little bit, but still quite strong for the most mature market in its 8th year. So Colorado, you can pause to read as well. Cursor is over August 2022. And we've got Nevada, the western market that is struggling the most to maintain growth, and so you can pause to read for a bit more about Nevada. And then lastly, we've got Oregon as well, and so you can pause to read for a bit more from Oregon. And so thank you, Alan Brockstein, for putting this all together for us in an easily digestible page. And so with that, thank you, Marijuana Moment, for reporting 3 in 5 Americans back nationwide cannabis legalization. It's a popular issue. No wonder that's why the Dems are using it, and they've waited this long because, of course, an election's coming up. Unfortunately, that's just how politics works. But a new poll finds a majority of Democrats, 71%, independents, 61%, and people under 65 said they support cannabis legalization. So more on this below. But again, this is just the Dems playing to what the population does want, and let's just hope that they end up carrying through with some of their promises. And with that, Tom Engel sharing, wow, more than 3,500 people applied for relief under Pennsylvania's 1-month cannabis pardon project. The Board of Pardons secretary told Cannabis Moment, including 1,000 last-minute applications on the last day before deadline. So this is big. Obviously, people do want to try and get a pardon, and they want their past records erased if possible, because no one should have a criminal record for cannabis, especially simple possession. And so with that, just to highlight, while Pennsylvania is a successful medical market, but seeing a lack of growth because they have not launched for adult use yet, the Pennsylvania Senate, I do believe, even the GOPs are working towards trying to introduce a cannabis legalization bill for adult use in 2023. So while PA will not be on the ballot, we are seeing them take steps towards hopefully getting this done in the next few years, and that would obviously be a big boost as well for another Eastern market. Well, with that, Tom Engel sharing some unfortunate data that has to be shared still. Yikes, the FBI released 2021 crime stats today, but changes to its law enforcement reporting system, more excuses and inconsistencies within the data make it impossible to track how cannabis and drug arrest trends are changing year over year. And so that sounds like a load of crap, but apparently that is the case right now. And so with that, just highlighting that, thank you, Joe Gressler, for sharing this, is that the crime has not stopped, and we need SAFE now more than ever. And so while the stage is set for some sort of reform, hopefully Chuck Schumer will keep some of his campaign promises to the American people that he has lied to thus far, as Louisville Police Department is seeking the public's help to identify suspects involved in 5 burglaries at cannabis dispensaries in Louisville and surrounding cities. And so America is less safe than ever, and the Safe Banking Act would be one incremental step in the right direction to help make America safer and decrease crime by getting cash off the streets and normalizing the cannabis industry, treating it like anything else. And we would see less of this if Schumer stopped working for Big Pharma and started working for the American people. And so with that, some MSO news, as Curaleaf to report third quarter 2022 financial and operational results ended September 30th, 2022, after market close on November 7th, 2022. And so that is about a month away from now. So just happy to report that all the MSOs are lining up, and we'll be seeing those results sooner than later. And with that, Curaleaf celebrates second dispensary opening in Ocala, Florida, and the company's retail presence now at 52 locations in Florida and 144 nationwide. So more information on the dispensary down here if you wanted to pause to read. And so while I've been happy to share Truliev's updates on how many dispensaries remain open in Florida despite Hurricane Ian, for more information on Curaleaf's locations, patients, resources, and products in Florida, including updates to those dispensaries impacted by Hurricane Ian, you can visit curaleaf.com/dispensary/Florida. So the link for this will be below, and obviously you can access that if you'd like, but just kind of unfortunate that they don't share updates, because that's something that we would like to see. And so at least good on Trulieve for sharing with us. And so, I'm sure you can find more information down there. But with that, it's been a big week for Curaleaf, as Curaleaf does close on their Trike acquisition, but as well announcing 2 new store openings on the other side of the country, one of which is our largest in the state of Arizona, and also sharing the news of Biden's first step of cannabis reform. And so a lot of this is already included in the story, but just highlighting that despite what we're seeing in the markets and the share prices, MSOs continue to execute because they know that it's a state-led growth story. It's just getting started, and they're going to be worth a lot more in the future now. So better to continue to expand while things are cheap and while they still can. And so with that, Air Wellness brings concentrates brand Haze to Florida and provides an update on store reopenings after Hurricane Ian. So thank you, Air Wellness, for providing an update as well, as we do love to see this. So it seems that they've announced the rollout of its premium live resin concentrates and vape brand Haze in Florida. So obviously the more competitive products that Air Wellness can use to try and attract new customers and retain those customers, the better. But main thing to highlight as well, following Hurricane Ian, 47 of Air's 51 Florida stores are currently open, which means only 4 have been affected. So I think that's a net positive for Air as well. And the company's Bonita Springs store will reopen on Friday, October 8th. In an effort to ensure medical cannabis patients have access to medicinal treatments, the company is actively working to reopen locations in Cape Coral, Port Charlotte, and Sebring once it is safe and compliant to do so. Now, it does not seem like, okay, so and then additional, our team on the ground in Florida did a great job preparing for the storm and securing our facilities. We also sustained no damage to our Gainesville cultivation campus, and harvests and products remain on schedule. And so big news out of air, unaffected and continuing to chug along. And so with that, just wanted to share Verano announces the opening of Move Panama City Beach and Move Port Orange, the company's 60th and 61st Florida locations. As the company is providing support for employees impacted by Hurricane Ian and is facilitating a donation to a Florida relief fund to aid recovery efforts. However, from my understanding, they do not include a list of how many stores remain open versus how many might have been affected. And so while that would be ideal to see, I was not able to find anything, unfortunately. But so with that, to summarize, in 2022, Verano has opened 20 new Move locations in Florida, underscoring the company's continued retail expansion across the state, much like the other MSOs, continuing to execute regardless of the share prices in the market, while Verano's active operations span 13 states, comprised of 119 dispensaries and 14 cultivation and processing facilities with more than 1 million square feet of cultivation capacity. And so good to see Verano continuing to expand though as well, staying competitive with everyone else. And so with that, just sharing a quick snippet of TLRY brand's first quarter fiscal year 2023 performance. According to them, affirms global leadership position. And so obviously their footprint in Germany does give them a head start, but their Canadian growth is not doing so well. And so just to highlight some summaries from Jungle Java, of course, all the links below will be in the description if you wanted to read through them, but reported net revenue of $153.2 million, which is down from a year ago at this time. On a constant currency basis, net revenue remains strong at $166.5 million, and this is Canadian dollars as well, keep that in mind. Cannabis gross margin increased to 51% from 43% in the prior year quarter. And so that's at least one thing that they want to point to as a net positive. Delivered $108 million in annualized cash savings to date, expects to deliver $130 million across corporate optimization plans. A lot of fluff for saying that they're trying to, waste as little money as possible. Second highest adjusted EBITDA in company's history, marking the 14th consecutive quarter of positive adjusted EBITDA due to some accounting wizardry, not necessarily the fact that they're actually making money. We're going to produce cash flow from operations. While lastly, strong balance sheet with $500 million in cash. Company reconfirms guidance to generate $70 to $80 million of adjusted EBITDA and be free cash flow positive in its operating business units this fiscal year, while TLRY's brands maintain number one cannabis market share in Canada and Germany. So I don't know if they still maintain number one market share in Canada based on what I've seen on Headset, but regardless, I still do own TLRY shares because TLRY was once Afria, and Afria is where I sort of made my money at the beginning. Obviously could have made a lot more, but this is all a learning curve for me. But at the same time, they do have that exposure to the German market, and we're waiting for some sort of announcement from Germany to, introduce their legislation. Not that they're going to legalize anytime soon, but at the same time, TLRY does have the benefit of being a Canadian LP, therefore they can trade on the New York Stock Exchange, and that, allows access to institutional money, whereas the MSOs are still stuck on the shitboards. But so with that, on to some snippets from investment firms. So take these with a grain of salt, but a lot of new information from the new announcements, and so I'm just going to share these with you and allow you to pause to read if you wanted to go through. So we've got BDSA and ATB on U.S. cannabis, saying U.S. cannabis market estimated $42 billion versus $46 billion in the spring. Northeast Cannabis estimates 20% compounded annual growth through 2026. And so while the Western markets are more mature, we're expecting growth from the Eastern markets as they come online. And so that will be New Jersey, which came online in April, New York, Connecticut, Vermont, Rhode Island, and a few more. And so MSO peer group, compared to others, I'm not going to try and break this down and butcher it, so you can just pause to read, but as well going to share you these snippets as well. So Life Sciences Insights from BDSA Fall Market Update, October 6, 2022. Strong through the storm, so you can pause to read a bit more from what ATB Capital Markets has to say with BDSA data. While sparking up in the Northeast, and then Cannabis CPG Confidential. And so more on some of what they're seeing versus other MSOs and price targets, you can pause to read. And so on to the next one, we've got Raymond James on U.S. and Canadian cannabis. So thanks, Todd, for sharing this one. Cannabis is an election theme. We're calling a pre-election run. Safe may pass in lame duck session November to Jan. And I think this depends on the results of the election. But so with that, you can pause to read for more information. And this was posted as of 9:54 this morning, October 7th. And so this is, again, Raymond James on U.S. cannabis. And so with that, we've got Jeffries on U.S. cannabis. So thanks, Todd, for sharing this one. Biden asked for rescheduling of cannabis without congressional action. And so more on this here. What has happened? This could lead to rescheduling without congressional action, which could in turn lead to uplisting and institutional ownership. And so again, from what we're seeing, it almost seems difficult that there could be any rescheduling without congressional action. We don't know. There's still a lot to be discovered, but more information on here from Jeffries. But again, take these all with a grain of salt. Well, this is from Echelon on U.S. cannabis, so thanks, Todd, for sharing. Large cap U.S. cannabis multiples were 14.9x 1 year forward. EBITDA last time hopes for federal reform were imminent. And this was January 8, 2021, when these MSOs were far smaller, making a lot less money than they are now. So just take that into consideration, despite the fact that they're valued at much less than they were at that time. The 1 year forward EBITDA, or earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization multiple, today stood at just 6x before the share price moved today. And so that would see a quick doubling to where they would be at this point in time in 2021. And so what Echelon has to say, though, you can break this down and read: Biden commits to reviewing cannabis scheduling within Controlled Substances Act, pardons cannabis offenses, potential for real deal reform. And so still a lot of talk, but we can pause to read what, I forget who this was, Echelon on U.S. cannabis. And then we've got Dennis Rudev sharing stocks budding for Biden as he calls for rescheduling, comments from AGP. So thanks, Dennis, for sharing this one. Cannabis stocks budding as Biden calls for rescheduling. Biden makes a cannabis stance. Finally, needed boost for the sector, lifting hope for reform, and the cannabis landscape would materialize or would materially grow, I imagine, if rescheduled. And especially we'd see a lot more capital flow in. And so you can pause to read for this one. Well, we've got Shooter McGinley on U.S. cannabis, so thanks, Todd, for sharing this one. Needham, what did they have to say on Thursday? Biden administration, yada, yada, same stuff. So you can pause to read if you'd like. And so moving on to the next one. Bottom line, this is what Needham has to say. Over the near term, nothing announced today is likely to change the funding outlook for the space. And as such, it will remain critical that cannabis operators continue to seek efficiency improvements and improve cash flow generation while this all unfolds as we head into November and a very, very timely and interesting election season. And so with that, Duke of Wall Street sharing thoughts from Pablo at Cantor on MSOS as well. Think he is one of the more objective and rational analysis covering Canna, and while he's been very bearish in the past, Pablo is now bullish, more bullish than ever at least. And so what's next after President Biden's announcement, investment summary, reasons to be bullish even after yesterday's spike? 3 questions to answer first. A, is this just election posturing? Possibly. B, was this done in isolation from Senate Democrats working on federal level reform? Possibly. And C, does this stall Safe Plus and suck the air from the related negotiations? Yes, the timing can be called into question less than a month before the midterms, but the executive action has been signed and the process begins now. It also encourages states to begin the expungement process. So again, still big news and on the relevance for stocks of the federal level pardons. And so you can pause to read. Well, we've got a bit more. Can the president reclassify a drug status in the CSA or remove it altogether? Assessing the impact of descheduling or rescheduling for U.S. cannabis stocks, as the 280E tax rule applies to Schedule 1 and 2 drugs. So obviously Schedule 3, 4, and 5, we want descheduling, but we'll take an incremental step to 3 and 5 before we can hopefully get rescheduling in the future. But in our view, whether descheduling or rescheduling, that would de facto legalize cannabis. While a comprehensive regulatory framework would be needed, even if MJ is rescheduled or descheduled, and then what happens next. So thank you, Pablo, for asking these difficult questions, as one should. And so with that, you can pause to read or grab all the links below if you wanted to go through them yourself. So last few ones, V8 Capital on U.S. cannabis. So thanks, Todd, for sharing this one. Biden initiates review of cannabis scheduling and issues pardons, sector positive. So again, same information, just from a different perspective. Read through it and take it in if you would like. Well, last few, I think we got Stifel on U.S. cannabis. Shares have the potential to increase up to 3x from current levels in short order, essentially just shorts covering. From my understanding, I could be wrong, so let me know in the comments. But longer term potential to improve operating cash flow by 50 to 250%. We could be on the cusp of a secular cannabis bull market. And that's what we've all been waiting for, what we've all been holding out for. And the stage has been set, like I've been saying all year into this election season. Are we finally going to see this unfold? I fucking hope so. And so with that, White House actions could catalyze a secular cannabis bull market. So a lot of key points down here from Stifel if you want to do pause to read. So last few stories, this one from Echelon, so thanks, Todd, for sharing. If we were to remove cannabis, the effect of 280E taxation, our U.S. cannabis direct cash flow, I think, I could be wrong on that, but something cash flow model valuations could increase on an average of 45%, offering very meaningful upside to current levels. And so with that, upside to D cash flow, I believe, after removing 280E. And so this just looks at all the MSOs and which ones would benefit the most by removing 280E and keeping what they would pay in taxes as profits. So we see TerraSend that would benefit massively, then Jushi, then Air, then Cresco, then Ascend, then Trueleaf, then Vexed, then Columbia Care, then Meramed, then Green Thumb Industries, and Verano. So I'm not sure why Curaleaf and some of the others are not included in here as well, but just sharing what I got from Todd, what Echelon shared him. And so last few stories, thank you, Graham Farrar, for sharing this one. I suspected those Fox News segments had a purpose. Congress should not legalize cannabis while also taking steps to constrain the new industry's ability to harm children. Man, some stupid people will never learn. And so Republican groups opposing legalization of cannabis, linking it to suicide, which is complete bullshit. And so thank you, Sean Kierman, for sharing this. So it's more evidence as to why we need to get out of the past prohibitionist fears and into the current reality, as here is a study showing lower suicides associated with access to cannabis. Legalization was associated with a 10.8% and 9.4% reduction in the suicide rate, as medical cannabis laws and suicides by gender and age. And this is from agph.aphapublications.org. And so I'll put the study in the description below if you wanted to check it out. But again, facts, destroying old, past, and wrong feelings that it's about time and are due for change. And so with that, also wanted to share MSO Elevator for sharing this awesome tweet for getting in front of Andrew Huberman, who's a well-known academic, but also decided to get out of the academia circle and try and, well, no, he's still in it, but he tried to give his content for free online through podcasts. And we love creators that are willing to do that and share their knowledge. And so hubermanlab saw your tweet was deleted. Andrew Preet, Harvard Biochem PhD, has a study on this you may be interested in. She found that consuming THC, even when combustible, still reduce lung tumor cancer growth by 50%. Your thoughts? And so ScienceDaily.com, I'll put the link below, but I love that MSO Elevator shared this, and then Andrew Huberman responded saying, I'll read this, thank you. And so while I do tune into some of his podcasts, it's just Andrew Huberman, again, someone with a credible background, professor of neurobiology at Stanford Medicine, host of the Huberman Lab podcast, focused on science and health research and public education, almost 500,000 followers. And so if he can share this, especially to his audience, that's just going to help spread awareness as well. And so if we can get hopefully to Andrew Huberman, maybe to Lex Fridman, and some of the other podcasts. Obviously, we wish Joe Rogan would be fighting for cannabis legalization, or at least he's scheduling a little bit more than he is. But regardless, just good to see more awareness out there. And so with that, last few stories, Tom Engel sharing Costa Rican President Rodrigo Chavez Robles sent lawmakers a cannabis legalization bill he wants them to pass. And so while this is still in the talks and nothing definitive has happened yet, and I want to focus mostly on actions, not words, good to see more countries and another president from a Latin American country taking steps in the right direction to end cannabis prohibition and bring about the benefits to his citizens. And so lastly, this one from Leafly, wow, if Germany successfully legalizes, it will become the world's largest adult use cannabis market. And there's no reason that they won't successfully legalize. And so this Leafly article highlights Germany prepares to turn over a new leaf with legal cannabis. Germany is gearing up to offer legal adult use cannabis to its population in 2024. And so as I've said many times, this will take time, but their goal is to finish writing up the legislation and introduce it hopefully by the end of this year. And that would be very timely along with some election thing. That could be massive, obviously, for the markets and the share prices, while the overall market is taking a dump at the same time. But then that would mean that in 2023, it would take them the time to pass that legislation, let's say get the votes and get all that done in order to actually make this a reality, only then to actually launch the adult use market in 2024. So still a long ways away. Just beyond thrilled to share this news. As much like Germany planning to legalize, much like the Safe Banking Act, and much like eventual cannabis reform, all of that is a when, not if scenario. And so that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to do my best to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you on Wednesday next week for a midweek update. And so if you're Canadian, happy Thanksgiving. Have a great weekend, everybody.